So I think it can be said for certain that many of us are excited for what Sony has to offer coming in 2024. And looking at the lineup they provided with the recent video they posted on their channel at the beginning of this month gives us some insight as to what we can expect next from Sony in the coming year. So today I wanted to take a look at the upcoming titles that we'll be releasing and some that have been released and give my thoughts and opinions on what I am most excited for coming in 2024. This is Alex from Insertmemorycard, and let's go over what I think will be an awesome year for Sony and gaming in general. Let's get into it.
So the video opens up with another quick glimpse at Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and as I wasn't too big of a fan of the first iteration of the remake, I did play through a majority of the game, I just never got around to completing it. But I will say that the second part of what I imagine will be a trilogy does look a lot more exciting than the first. It looks like they are stepping out of Midgar and exploring other regions that were in the original PS1 version, and I can't actually say that the environments and the setting in this one, they look incredible. I think the first part, only taking place in Midgar, led the game to feel sort of dark and drab, and I mean within good reason, of course. But I definitely like what I'm seeing with this one. I know the combat will be improved upon from the first game, maybe not in major ways, but I am definitely expecting to see some new mechanics come into play here. So as much as I didn't vibe with the first part, I am definitely looking forward to what Final Fantasy VII Rebirth will bring to the table following its release in February. Next up, we had Helldivers 2, which is releasing in February as well, and as I never played the original Helldivers, I am interested in this one as they have changed the formula from being a top-down twin-stick shooter over to a third-person squad-based shooter. I'm wondering how well this will translate, which I know most people were poking fun at the gameplay footage that got released during one of Sony's presentations, but I am actually excited for this one. I'm always down for a cooperative online shooter experience, and I have a feeling that this is going to be one of those games that looks a little B-tier on the outside, but I think once we get our hands on it, the combat looks fun, the graphics aren't too bad, and the weapon and enemy variety seems pretty good for what it's worth. It seems like they have a lot more going with this one, and I think this might be one that flies under certain people's radars, but I am excited to try it out either way. I think this might be a good game to kill some time until Final Fantasy's eventual release later that month. Then we got a quick glimpse of Tekken 8, which I'm super excited for. Look guys, I'm a big fan of the original Tekken games on the PS1, so much so that I am eventually planning on doing a whole separate video on the Tekken games themselves and why I think they're so awesome and genre-defying. I will say that I have mixed feelings about the current iterations just in regards to the direction of the art style, and that I do almost feel at times they cater more towards the esports community, and don't even get me started with the monetization in the current fighting game sphere. But that's a topic for another time. Regardless, I am excited for Tekken 8 as it is furthering the ongoing narrative that's been established within the first games of the series. And I mean, it's Tekken. The combat's always amazing, the graphics in this one look insane, and it does look like with Tekken 8 they are adding separate modes that will keep players engaged and fighting even after the credits roll on the story there. So fingers crossed they sneak some kind of Tekken Force mode into the game, but only one can hope when we see the game's eventual release in late January. So it looks like Stellar Blade, previously known as Project Eve back in 2021, is finally getting a release date later this year, which was a surprise to many, and while this is a game I am looking forward to, I do have my hesitations as to exactly how this game is going to perform. It does look like a fast-paced Souls-like with anime aesthetics, and I know that's already a selling point for a lot of people out there. I do believe the combat will be fun, but there is a part of me that is hoping that this doesn't just have a generic-ass anime story to it like some other games do. I mean, the enemies look really cool, and it does look like we're going to be fighting some huge bosses with, you know, multi-layered attacks akin to the Souls genre. This might be enough to carry it forward, but I definitely am still not entirely sold on what the game is going to bring to the table story-wise. I really hope that we will get some type of future showcase here in February that will give us some more reason to invest ourselves in this world and the story they're trying to build up and create here. So here's to hope we get another glimpse at this in the near future before release, which I'm sure will be the case. So Koei Tecmo's Rise of the Ronin is already looking like it's shaping up to be a pretty decent game. And as I wasn't too big of a fan of the Neo series, I absolutely love the work done by Team Ninja on the Ninja Gaiden games. Those games always have a high prestige in my book and will always go down as one of the hardest games I've ever had to beat. Now, I am a big fan of the samurai slash ninja genre, as my favorite games from recent years are games like Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, and Ghost of Tsushima, so this might be an easy pickup for me. But at the same time, I feel like I'm gonna have to wait on this one and see how some early reviews look like, because I'm not exactly sold on this one 100%. I think I'm always a fan of the more grounded combat when it comes to these kind of games, and looking at this one, I feel like it's going to be a little bit more over the top for my liking. Nonetheless, the game looks good, and this is for sure one of those that I'm going to have to wait and see how reviews pan out later this March. So Suicide Squad killed the Justice League. I can't say whether I have or have not played this game for NDA purposes, but I will say this. This is actually a game I am looking forward to, unlike most people. I am a huge fan of the Arkham games by Rocksteady, and I know that this veers in a completely different direction from the previous offerings they've had, but what I can say is I do think that this will be a good game. From what we've seen from the trailers, the combat looks fun, the characters seem interesting, and they all seem to have a unique dynamic with each other. Something is telling me that the driving factor in this game that will make it enjoyable will definitely be the story itself. I don't think it's something that Rocksteady falls short from. The live service aspects, well, there's not much that can be said about that, is there? But let's hope, regardless of that factor, this game releases to good reception right around the tail end of this month. So I'll admit, I've never really played any of the Yakuza games, even though I think they look really cool. I've just never really dived into the series, but Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth actually looks really fun. I don't know what it is about this one in particular that makes me want to play it. I think maybe it's just because it doesn't take itself too seriously, and it seems like they're packing the game with, more activities than they probably need to there. I mean, so far we've seen an island builder mode, a crazy taxi like delivery mode, there's returning karaoke mini games, which I know is pretty popular throughout the series. And I mean, come on, they're gonna have arcade classics like Virtual Fighter 3 and Sega Bass Fishing. I think the side content alone has me excited for this one, and not even the main game itself, so I think I will be picking up this one when it releases on January 26th. So next on our list is Concord. Now, there's not much that can be said about this one, as really all we have to go off of is this one CGI trailer with a sandwich and a couple shots of a detailed spaceship. So that's good. But looking at the PlayStation blog back in May of 2023, we can see that there's only one small speck of detail that was given about the game. It's quoted as, "Concord is a bringing together of peoples. It's the power of games to build connection and inspire social play." Whatever the hell that means. Seems like a pretty generic statement if you ask me. It is labeled as a PvP multiplayer first-person shooter in space, which, I mean, hey, to pull it off right, could be pretty interesting. Pacific Drive does look like a pretty unique and interesting game. It looks like we'll be driving around in this sort of post-apocalyptic forest while maintaining our vehicle's health, repairing it, upgrading, and outfitting it to stay safe from all the dangers that surround us in these open zones. And I feel like this game will be one of those mystery story-driven games that progress the narrative further with, each run that you take. And I do think that the gameplay looks different and unique, and if the story on this one is good enough and is able to keep me, engaged, then it might be one that I actually do check out. Looks like this one will be hitting in late February. So Silent Hill 2 does look like it's releasing this year, and this is one of those legendary horror games that I'm sure the vast majority of us are going to pick up. I am a fan of the Silent Hill games and have played a majority of them, including Silent Hill 2 on the PS2, with Shattered Memories being my favorite of the franchise, which I know isn't a popular opinion there. But from just what we've been able to see from the Silent Hill 2 remake, it does already look like they are sticking to a faithful adaptation of the original game. If they can nail down the atmosphere and the story of the original, I wouldn't really give a shit if the combat isn't the best. Now, this one doesn't have a specific release date, but I am excited to get my hands on this one sometime later this year. Dragon's Dogma 2 got shown again here, and as we did have some extended gameplay shown just some time ago for this game, this one really is shaping up to be another awesome release by Capcom. I mean, that RE engine just does not let up. The cutscene graphics look insanely good, the big boss battles are giving me like heavy Shadow of the Colossus vibes, and I do like the multi-class party mechanics that are pulled over from the first game. I think this is one that's shaping up to be a major upgrade from the first game in almost every way. I think this will be one of those games that will be more popular than its predecessor. I will say that it is a little disappointing that we never got the performance patch for the first game, as I do think it would be nice to revisit the older title for people who haven't dipped their toes into this franchise yet. But from what I am seeing, it looks like this one will be easily accessible even for newcomers of the franchise. This one releases in March, and I'm definitely looking forward to checking this one out. So I'll admit, when I first was watching the trailer for Plucky Squire, I was like, alright, this game looks dope, it's got cool art style, it's, set inside of what looks to be like a kid's coloring book or a comic book, it's got some fun looking combat, but then the trailer completely flips you on its head. And the main character steps out of the comic book and into the real world and turns into what it looks like almost like a third-person action platformer. I mean, that concept alone has me sold. I mean, the idea of being able to transfer from flat surface over to a 3D plane really sets the game in a unique light. Almost gives me like Legend of Zelda Link Between World vibes. I'm hoping that this game doesn't really rely on that mechanic alone and actually brings some fun combat and platforming to the table. This one doesn't have a definitive release date, but is releasing sometime in 2024. So this is the big one in my opinion. This is the release that I am looking forward to the most in 2024. And that's Metal Gear Solid Delta, or Metal Gear Solid 3, whatever you want to call it. Now, it was a surprise to me, and I'm sure many others, that the game would be releasing this year, as I thought the game would be well off into early 2025 or mid 2025, but I am happy to see that it is coming out this year. I can't wait to re-experience this game with all new graphics and see what they've done to adjust any of the gameplay mechanics to give it more of a modern feel. I'm really hoping they take advantage of things like the DualSense with the adaptive triggers on the PS5, as I think this is a perfect game for those features to be included. Things like feeling the grass through the haptics as you're crawling through the jungle, or the pressure of pressing the trigger down when shooting something like Boss's pistol with the silencer attached. I get excited thinking of all the ways they can improve upon an already great and legendary game. It does have me a little concerned, I'm not going to lie, with the way that they have handled the most recent release of the Trilogy Collection we got on all the other platforms, as it wasn't the best effort of work, or, a lot that was really put into making the collection feel very polished or run in a decent frame rate there. I like that they are using the audio from the original game, as it would make me feel a little weird if they had to recast someone as iconic as David Hayter for Big Boss. But I am also concerned, as I wonder how well that's going to work when it comes to mixing the older audio and having all these new graphics in our face. I'm really hoping that it blends well together and isn't like super jarring or anything. I think if Konami plays this right, they could really see some big sales numbers with this one from both old and new fans. I think this is a perfect starting point for anybody who wants to experience the Metal Gear Solid franchise for the first time. I mean, look how successful someone like Capcom is with their remake of the Resident Evil franchise. If they are able to replicate that level of success in the same vein, then we could see some more potential remakes from Konami, as there is even information out there already that Konami is working on a Metal Gear Solid 1 remake. I think the future for Metal Gear Solid franchise is looking bright, so here's hoping we get a solid remake from them, no pun intended, when the game releases sometime in 2024.
So that's it. That's all of the current games we can expect here coming in 2024. And as I am excited for a lot of these releases, I think the question on everybody's mind is, where the hell are the Sony first-party titles at? I think people are starting to notice the absence of first-party support for this year, and it seems like Sony is relying heavily on third-party support to get them throughout the year. I'm hoping that we can get a Sony State of Play or some type of presentation soon in the next coming months that can give us an idea as to what they're working on from a first-party perspective. Let me know what you think about all that in the comment section down below. Go ahead and give the video a like. Let me know what video games you are most anticipated and excited for in 2024. This is Alex from Insert Memory Card, and I will see you next time.